I've been married to Sarah for 8 years now. We met in college where we were both majoring in business. I was drawn to her confidence and fiery spirit while she seemed captivated by my laid-back personality. We seemed like an ideal match to everyone around us. After college, we settled into a comfortable routine, both of us working 9-to-5 jobs, sometimes taking weekend trips to unwind. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good, or so I thought. Recently, I noticed some changes in Sarah. At first, they were subtle. She started coming home later, claiming that work had become busier and her boss was piling on extra projects. I didn't think much of it. I mean, I worked late sometimes too. But then the late nights turned into weekends where she would say she was out with friends. The conversations became shorter, her phone frequently seemed to be buzzing with notifications, and she would often leave the room to answer calls. I tried to shake off the nagging feeling in my gut, but it just wouldn't go away. Things took a turn when Jake, an old army buddy of mine, fell on hard times. I figured it was a good idea to let him crash in our basement apartment while he got back on his feet. I had known Jake for years and we always had each other's backs. I thought he'd be a good influence around the house, maybe even help us with some chores. I never imagined he would become the catalyst for my unraveling. The night everything changed started out like any other. Sarah had told me she was going out for drinks with coworkers. I was fine with that. We all need our space now and then. I settled in for a quiet evening, catching up on a show I had been meaning to watch. As the hours rolled on, I drifted off to sleep on the couch, unaware of the storm brewing beneath my roof. It was around 3 a.m. when I woke up to an unsettling noise. I could hear muffled voices coming from the basement. My heart raced as I got up to investigate. I never thought I'd find what I did when I opened that door. The sight that met my eyes will forever be etched in my mind. There was Sarah, tangled up with Jake on the couch, completely oblivious to my presence. They were lost in their own world, giggling and whispering like they had shared some inside joke. It took a moment for my brain to process what I was seeing. I felt like a punch to the gut. I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart pounding loudly in my ears. The anger surged through me like a wildfire, igniting every nerve ending in my body. How could she? How could they? I felt the warmth of betrayal flood over me, shocking and painful. I wanted to scream, to smash something, to shake them both and demand an explanation. But instead, I just turned around and walked back to the living room, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't yet articulate. What was I supposed to do now? I felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath my feet. I had trusted both of them. They had both played significant roles in my life, and now they were entwined in a way that betrayed everything I thought I knew. I poured myself a glass of water, trying to steady my shaking hands, but the cold liquid didn't help. I could hear them getting louder in the basement, their laughter echoing in what had been my home. Around 20 minutes later, I heard footsteps moving up the stairs. I braced myself, knowing this confrontation was inevitable. Sarah appeared, still buzzing from whatever had just transpired. The moment our eyes met, I felt the weight of everything crushing down on me. I knew I had to confront her, but the words felt heavy in my throat. How do you confront the person you love when they've shattered your trust in an instant? Sarah, I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. She froze, her smile fading as she processed my expression. I didn't want to let anger take over, but the betrayal was fresh and raw, like an open wound. I could see the moment realization hit Sarah. Her eyes widened and her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I could feel the tension thickening the air between us, a palpable silence that felt like it could suffocate me. I wasn't sure what I wanted to say or how to even start the conversation, but I knew I needed answers. Were you just with Jake? My voice trembled, betraying the calm facade I was desperately trying to maintain. I was still in shock, grappling with the betrayal that had turned my world upside down. Her face morphed from shock to something more defensive. What are you talking about? She shot back, but there was a crack in her tone that told me she knew exactly what I was referring to. I could see her mentally scrambling to formulate a lie, desperately trying to weave a narrative that would save her. Don't play games with me, Sarah. I saw you, I said, my voice rising a little. I saw you with him, you were laughing, and I couldn't finish the sentence. The image replayed in my mind like a broken record. They were so intimate with each other, so carefree, it cut deeper than any knife. She took a step back, her hands raised defensively. No, wait, you don't understand. It's not what it looks like, she exclaimed, her voice almost a shriek. Jake was just comforting me. I've been stressed out with work and comforting you. At 3 a.m., I interrupted, disbelief mingling with the anger boiling inside me. What kind of excuse is that? You think I'm going to buy that? Her eyes darted away from mine, guilt etched across her features. We were just talking. It's been hard for both of us, and I thought he could help. Help with what? With betraying me. I spat, feeling the heat of betrayal radiating through my veins. You let him stay in our home, and this is how you repay my trust. I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear, it just happened. She stammered, her voice shaky. It was the kind of excuse that felt rehearsed and hollow. I wanted to scream at her, to shake her and demand the truth, but instead I felt this crushing wave of sadness wash over me. Did you ever think about what this would do to me, to us? I asked, my voice quieter now, filled with disappointment. You've shattered everything we built together. You let him into our lives, and now look what's happened. She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. I needed to process this. I needed to step back from her frantic explanations and focus on what I was feeling. My heart was breaking, and I could feel the tears welling up, burning at the corners of my eyes. Instead of allowing them to fall, I turned away from her. I can't do this right now, Sarah, I said, my voice strained. I needed air, space to breathe. I felt like I was suffocating in my own home. I walked past her and headed for the door, needing a break from the suffocating atmosphere of our house. Before I could exit, she grabbed my arm. Please don't go, I love you. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. I turned to face her, and I could see the panic in her eyes, but it didn't matter. None of her pleas could undo what had happened. You love me, I scoffed, the bitterness in my tone surprising even me. You don't get to say that after what you've done. Love doesn't betray the other person like this. I thought we had something real, something solid, and you've just thrown it away. I shook her off and stepped outside, needing to clear my head. The cold night air hit me like a slap, grounding me in the harsh reality of my situation. I leaned against the porch railing, trying to shake off the feeling of betrayal that hung heavy in my chest. The anger kept bubbling up inside me, but beneath it lay a deep sadness I wasn't ready to confront. This wasn't just about Sarah, it was about me too. I had trusted her, believed in our marriage, and now I was left with nothing but confusion. Jake had been my friend. I had welcomed him into my home, and he had betrayed me in the most unforgivable way. The two people I thought I could rely on had both turned against me, and I felt like a fool for not seeing it sooner. I stood there for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of everything. I thought about the life we had built together, the dreams we had shared, and how quickly it all could unravel. I had a decision to make, but at that moment, all I could feel was the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I knew I had to confront both Sarah and Jake again, but I needed a plan. I wasn't going to just let this slide, not after what they had done. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I walked back inside, ready to face the reality of my shattered world. As I stepped back into the house, I could feel the tension hanging thick in the air. Sarah was still standing there, her arms crossed defensively over her chest, as if she was trying to shield herself from the consequences of her actions. There was a part of me that wanted to feel sympathy for her, but that part was drowned out by the overwhelming sense of betrayal. I'm not done talking, I said, my voice firm as I walked further into the living room. We need to figure out what comes next. You can't just sweep this under the rug. She looked at me, her expression shifting between fear and defiance. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Work been a nightmare, and Jake, he's just been a friend to lean on, she insisted. Friend? I laughed bitterly. A friend you were screwing on our couch, that's quite the friendship you've built. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, anger coursing through my veins like a storm. I didn't plan for it to happen, it just did. She shot back, her voice rising in pitch. What do you want me to say? I messed up, I know that, but you have to believe me when I say it wasn't just about sex. It's complicated. Complicated. I echoed, disbelief dripping from my words. There's nothing complicated about cheating. It's betrayal, plain and simple. I ran a hand through my hair, packing back and forth in the small living room. You had all these chances to be honest with me, and instead you chose to lie. You chose to go behind my back. Her defenses crumbled a bit then, and I could see the tears pooling in her eyes. I'm sorry, I really am. It just happened when I was feeling vulnerable. I thought I could just talk to Jake about my issues, and it spiraled out of control. I never meant to hurt you. Your words mean nothing to me right now, I interrupted. You can't take back what you've done. You've broken my trust, and that doesn't just come back because you're sorry. Do you even realize how much this hurts, how betrayed I feel? She opened her mouth, attempting to speak, but I raised my hand to stop her. I wasn't finished. And what about Jake? Did he mean anything to you, or was he just a convenient way to escape from your reality? Sarah took a deep breath, looking torn. It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. But it didn't mean I didn't love you. I'm still in love with you. My heart twisted at her words, but I couldn't let my emotions get the better of me. You don't get to say you love me after what happened. You've put me in a position where I don't even know who to trust anymore. I opened my home to Jake because I thought he was struggling and he was supposed to be my friend. Instead, he became a traitor. I stormed around the room, my anger bubbling over. Where is he? I want to hear his side of the story. I want to confront him as well, because I'm not going to let this go unanswered. I do. Think that's a good idea, Sarah said, her voice trembling as she tried to reason with me. He's not in a good place right now. Maybe we can just talk about this calmly. Calmly? I scoffed. You think I can just sit here and calmly discuss your infidelity? You're delusional if you think that's going to happen. I need to face him. I made a beeline for the basement door, ready to confront the man I once called a friend. As I descended the stairs, I could hear faint rustling. When I reached the bottom, I saw Jake sitting on the couch, his head in his hands as if he already knew what was coming. Jake, I said, my voice low and dangerous, we need to talk. He looked up at me, an expression of guilt washing over his face. Hey man, I didn't expect you to be awake. No, I said coldly. What were you expecting? That I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't come down here and confront you about what happened? He shifted uncomfortably, glancing back toward the stairs. I didn't want to hurt you. It just happened. Man, I was trying to be there for Sarah, and it turned into something it shouldn't have been. So what? You thought it was okay to screw your best friend's wife because you were trying to be there for her. You were a damn fool if you thought that was going to end well. I shot back, anger pulsing through each word. Look, I know I messed up, but we were both in a bad place, Jake pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. It was a one-time thing. I was trying to help her, and it just spiraled out of control. I never wanted to hurt you, I promise. Help her. I spat incredulity in my tone. You betrayed my trust, Jake. You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. You've destroyed everything I thought we had. I'm sorry, man, I really am, he said, looking genuinely remorseful, but it was too little, too late. I didn't mean for it to happen. I took a step closer, my fists clenched at my sides. You think that's enough? You think an apology fixes this? You've ruined my marriage, and for what? A few moments of pleasure. Jake looked down, and I could see the shame written all over his face. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope you can see that it was a mistake. I'll do anything to make it right. I shook my head, disbelief coursing through me. I don't even know if I can look at you the same way again. You were supposed to be my friend. You were supposed to have my back. Instead, you stabbed me in it. I turned to leave the basement, needing to get away from both Sarah and Jake. I stormed back upstairs, my heart pounding in my chest. The reality of the situation was sinking in, and I couldn't help but feel that everything had changed. The foundation of my life felt like it was crumbling around me. I needed to reassess everything, and right now, I felt lost in a sea of betrayal. I knew I had a decision to make. I could either try to salvage my marriage or walk away from it all. But first, I needed to process this betrayal. I needed to feel the weight of it and understand what it meant for me moving forward. I spent the next few hours packing around the house, trying to gather my thoughts and feelings. The sun was creeping up, casting a dim light through the windows, but all I could see was darkness. My mind was racing with images of Sarah and Jake together, their laughter echoing in my ears like a haunting melody I couldn't shake off. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. I finally settled on the couch, burying my face in my hands. I was angry, hurt, and disillusioned all at once. This wasn't how I envisioned my life. Marriage was supposed to be about partnership, trust, and love. And yet here I was, dealing with the aftermath of betrayal from the two people I thought I could rely on. Minutes passed in silence before I heard the soft footsteps of Sarah approaching. She stood in the doorway, her expression a mixture of uncertainty and regret. "Can we talk?" she asked hesitantly. I sighed deeply, feeling the weight of the moment. "What more is there to say, Sarah? You've already said enough to break my heart. But please." "I just need a chance to explain myself," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I want to make this right. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." "Make this right?" I echoed, incredulity creeping into my tone once again. "What could possibly make this right? You've cheated on me with my best friend for what? A tiny thrill, because you were stressed. It doesn't make any sense." "I know it doesn't," she admitted, stepping closer, her eyes pleading. I was overwhelmed. I thought if I could just talk to Jake, it would help ease my burden, and then things spiraled. "I know it doesn't justify what I did, but I need you to understand it wasn't just lust. It was a mistake born from vulnerability." I closed my eyes, trying to suppress the hurt. "A mistake that cost us everything. I don't know if I can just forget about this and move on. You've shattered our trust." "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I love you, and I want to do whatever it takes to fix this. I'll go to therapy, I'll be open about everything. Just please don't give up on us yet." Her words hung in the air, and for a moment I felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly extinguished by the reality of what had transpired. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. "What do you want me to do, Sarah? Pretend like everything is fine, like I'm not standing here feeling completely betrayed?" "No, I don't want you to pretend," she said, shaking her head. "I want to rebuild our relationship. I want to work through this together. I want to prove to you that I can be the wife you deserve." I stared at her, searching for sincerity in her eyes. "And what about Jake? What happens to him? He was your confidant, and now he's just a footnote in this mess." "I don't know, but I can't have him in our lives like this," she said, looking down. "I realize now that I let him get too close, and that was my mistake. I'll talk to him, I promise." I rubbed my forehead, feeling the weight of indecision pressing down on me. "What do you think I should do? Do you want me to sweep this under the rug and act like everything's okay? Because I don't think I can." "I'm not asking you to forget," she said, her voice earnest. "I'm just asking for a chance to prove that I can change. I need to show you that I'm still committed to our marriage." The thought of forgiving her felt like climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. "I need time, space to think about all of this. I can't just jump back into things as though nothing happened." "Take all the time you need," she replied softly. "I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk. I love you, and I'm sorry." With that, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving me to grapple with the chaos swirling around in my mind. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, filled with conflicting emotions. I wanted to believe Sarah's words, to think that somehow we could rebuild what had been broken. But every time I thought about her laughing with Jake, every time I pictured the two of them together, a wave of anger would crash over me, drowning any semblance of hope. By evening, I decided I needed to face Jake once more. I couldn't let him off the hook that easily. The betrayal had to be acknowledged, and he needed to understand the gravity of what he had done. I texted him, asking him to meet me at a nearby bar. I needed to hear him admit to what he had done and confront him about the implications of his actions. As I drove to the bar, my heart raced with a mix of anticipation and dread. I was preparing myself for a confrontation that could either lead to closure or further heartache. When I arrived, I spotted Jake sitting at a table in the back, his expression somber. "Thanks for coming," he said when I approached. His tone was devoid of the cockiness I had seen earlier, replaced by a genuine remorse. "Let's cut to the chase," I said, taking a seat across from him. "I want to hear you say it. What you did was wrong. You need to own this." He nodded, looking me straight in the eye. "I messed up, man. I should have never let it get that far. I was weak and I let temptation take over. I'm really sorry for what I did to you, and I hate myself for it." Hearing him say the words didn't magically alleviate my anger, but it was a start. "You've hurt me and Sarah. She may be willing to work on things, but I don't know if I can even look at you the same way again. I get it. I ruined your trust and I ruined my friendship with you. I wish I could take it back, he said, his voice tinged with regret. I'd do anything to make it right. Anything. I echoed, my voice laced with skepticism. What does that even mean? You think you can just apologize and everything will be fine? You don't get to erase what you've done. I know I can't make it right so easily, Jake replied, looking defeated. But I'll back off, I'll remove myself from this situation. I won't contact Sarah again. You have my word. His words hit me like a double-edged sword. Part of me wanted to believe him, but the other part felt that this wouldn't be enough. That's a step, but it doesn't change the fact that you've betrayed me. I need to figure out how to move forward, and I don't know if I can do that while you're still in the picture. I understand, he said, his tone sincere. I'll give you space. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday. I'll always regret what I did. I sat back, taking a deep breath. This was all too much to process. As much as I wanted to hate him for what he had done, there was a part of me that still remembered the good times we shared as friends, but those memories felt tainted now. I'll think about what you said, I finally said, my voice steady. But know this, Jake, I'm not making any promises. You've put me in a position where I have to decide how much I'm willing to forgive, and that's not going to happen overnight. He nodded, understanding the weight of my words. I won't push you. Just know that I'm genuinely sorry. After that, we parted ways and I drove home in silence, my mind buzzing with confusion. I could feel the enormity of the situation weighing heavily on my shoulders. I had a lot to think about and the path ahead was murky at best. But one thing was clear. Rebuilding trust was going to take time, if it was even possible at all. The following days were a blur. I found myself caught in an emotional whirlwind, oscillating between anger and despair. I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying moments of laughter and love that now felt irreparably tainted. I was haunted by images of Sarah and Jake together, and the sting of betrayal cut deeper with each passing hour. I decided to take Sarah's offer of space seriously. She had given me the freedom to process everything, and I needed that more than I realized. I filled my days with distractions, hanging out with friends, hitting the gym, and trying to focus on work. But no matter how hard I tried to escape my thoughts, they always came creeping back in. One evening, after a long day at work, I returned home to find Sarah sitting on the couch, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked up at me, vulnerability etched across her face. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice shaky. I felt a wave of emotions crash over me, regret, anger, sadness, but I nodded, knowing we needed to address the elephant in the room eventually. "Yeah, let's talk," I replied, taking a seat across from her. "I've been thinking about everything," she began, her voice uneasy. "About us, about what happened. I know I messed up, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I never wanted to hurt you, and I'm so sorry." The apology felt heavy in the air, and while I appreciated her taking responsibility, it didn't erase the pain I was feeling. "I appreciate that, but words don't really mean much right now," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "You shattered my trust, Sarah. Do you understand what that means?" "Yes, I do," she replied, tears streaming down her face. "I know it's going to take time to rebuild, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to go to couples therapy together. I want to work on us, on our communication. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in her voice almost broke me, but I held firm. "I want to believe you, Sarah, but I can't just flip a switch and pretend everything is okay. It's going to take more than therapy. It's going to take time and effort from both of us." "I understand, and I'm committed to that," she said, her voice steadying. "I want to show you that I can be the wife you deserve. It might not happen overnight, but I want to prove it to you day by day." I found myself torn. Part of me wanted to scream that it was all too late, that she had ruined everything. But another part of me, one that had shared so much with her, yearned for reconciliation. What we had built together over the years was significant, and the idea of throwing it all away felt devastating. "I can't promise anything right now," I said slowly, measuring my words. "But I'm willing to consider therapy as a step toward rebuilding trust. I know it won't be easy, but I'm not ready to give up just yet." Sarah nodded, relief washing over her features. "Thank you, that's all I'm asking, for a chance to prove myself." That night we sat together in silence, the weight of our unspoken emotions hanging heavy in the air. We were both aware that we were standing at the precipice of something significant, but the abyss below felt daunting. Over the next week, we went to therapy sessions together. It was tough, peeling back the layers of hurt and betrayal. I learned to articulate my feelings, to voice the confusion and anger swirling within me. Sarah did her best to express her regrets, taking responsibility for her actions while also trying to explain her feelings of vulnerability that had led to her infidelity. While our sessions were filled with raw emotions and difficult conversations, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between us. Trust, once a solid foundation, felt like it was built on sand. Small moments of connection would happen. She would hold my hand and I'd feel a flicker of hope, but the shadow of her betrayal always loomed nearby. One evening, as we sat on the couch, I tentatively brought up Jake. "What's going to happen with him?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "You said you would talk to him about not contacting you again, but I need to know where you stand with him." Sarah looked away, tears welling in her eyes. "I haven't spoken to him since that night. I thought about reaching out, but I didn't know what to say. I just felt so ashamed." "I think you need to tell him how you feel," I said, trying to remain calm. "He can't just waltz back into your life. You need to set boundaries for both of our sakes." "I know," she replied, her voice shaky. "I'll talk to him. I promise." A few days later, Sarah reached out to Jake. She told me afterward that it was one of the hardest conversations she had ever had. She explained to him that they could no longer be friends, that their relationship had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. As she recounted the conversation, I felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. "I told him I couldn't have him in my life anymore," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I can't go back to that place. I want to focus on us, on healing." Hearing her say that helped ease some of the tension that had built between us. "Good. I think that's the right choice," I said, feeling a bit of the weight lift. But even with that conversation behind us, I knew we had a long road ahead. As the weeks passed, we continued to attend therapy sessions, and while we were making progress, it felt like we were trudging through mud. Some days were better than others. There were moments where I would catch Sarah's laughter and feel a fleeting sense of joy. But then, like a dark cloud, memories of her betrayal would wash over me, dragging me back into the depths of hurt. I started to realize that healing wouldn't be a straight path. There would be ups and downs, moments of clarity coupled with lingering doubts. Through it all, I clung to the hope that perhaps, just perhaps, we could emerge stronger from this if we both were willing to put in the work. Yet, even as I tried to believe in the possibility of rebuilding, there was a seed of doubt nestled deep within me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I would always carry this wound with me, a wound that could heal but would always leave a scar. And as I sat there, grappling with these conflicting emotions, I began to understand that moving forward meant acknowledging the past while also being open to the future, no matter how uncertain it might be. I was ready to make a decision. As I sat there, contemplating everything that had transpired, I felt the weight of my decision looming over me. I had spent weeks trying to navigate this emotional maze, and I finally understood that I needed to confront the reality of my situation head-on. It was time to decide whether I could truly forgive Sarah and rebuild our marriage, or if I was merely prolonging the inevitable. I decided to initiate another therapy session, but this time, I wanted to focus on my feelings and the direction of our relationship. I needed clarity, and I hoped that the therapist could help facilitate that conversation. As we sat in the office, I took a deep breath and gathered my thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about trust." I began, looking at Sarah. "Trust is the foundation of any marriage, and right now, ours feels like it's built on shaky ground." The therapist nodded, encouraging me to continue. "I want to believe that we can move past this, but I also need to be honest about my feelings. I'm finding it hard to shake off the images of what happened. Every time I think we're moving forward, I'm reminded of the betrayal, and it's like I'm back at square one." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and she reached for my hand. "I'm so sorry for what I did. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. I love you, and I want us to work." I believe that you love me, but love alone isn't enough to heal this wound, I replied, my voice steady. I need to know that this is a two-way street. We both have to commit to making this work, and I need to see real change. I'm committed, she said firmly, her voice gaining strength. I want to prove to you that I can be the partner you deserve. I'll do anything it takes. Attend therapy, communicate openly, and make sure I don't repeat mistakes. The therapist chimed in. It sounds like both of you are willing to put in the work to rebuild this relationship. It's vital to continue having these open conversations and to establish boundaries that protect your emotional well-being. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. I want to believe we can get through this, but I need to be clear about what I need from you, Sarah. I need you to be completely honest with me about your feelings and to be transparent about your actions moving forward. Absolutely, she promised, her eyes earnest. I'll be open with you. I want to be the wife you can trust again. The rest of the therapy session passed in a blur. We discussed how to establish better communication, and I could sense that Sarah was genuinely committed to making changes. She talked about her feelings of vulnerability and the struggles she had faced but never used them as excuses. Instead, she focused on how she could grow from this experience. After the session, as we drove home, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The road to healing was going to be long and filled with pitfalls, but for the first time in weeks I felt like we were on the right path. I could see the glimmers of hope in Sarah's eyes, and it sparked something within me. Can we start fresh? I asked, breaking the silence as we pulled into our driveway. I know we can't erase what happened, but I want to work on moving forward together. Yes, let's start fresh, she replied, her voice filled with conviction. I want to build something new with you. I want to show you that I can be better. We stepped inside our home and everything felt different. The walls that had felt like a prison of betrayal now bore witness to our commitment to rebuilding. Sure, there would still be challenges ahead, but I was ready to confront them with Sarah by my side. Over the next few months, we focused on healing. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I felt anger bubbling to the surface, and times when Sarah's remorse felt overwhelming. But in those moments, we leaned on each other. We communicated openly about our needs and fears, and slowly we began to rebuild our trust. I discovered that forgiveness is not a one-time act but a continuous journey. Each day brought its own challenges, but also its own victories. We celebrated the small milestones, the way Sarah would show up for me in ways she hadn't before, the way I could finally share my feelings without fear of judgment. I learned to create boundaries that protected my heart while still allowing room for growth. I had to let go of the image of what our marriage used to be and embrace the new version we were creating together. There was a beauty in the messiness of it all, and slowly, the darkness that had clouded my heart began to lift. In the end, I realized that relationships are forged in the fires of adversity. Betrayal had tested our commitment, but it also revealed our strength. I learned that I could love Sarah, and that love could coexist with the pain of what had happened. As I reflect on this journey, I understand that true love involves navigating the complexities of life together. It's about facing the harsh realities, making tough decisions, and ultimately choosing to stand by each other's side. While the scars of betrayal may remain, they serve as reminders of how far we've come. And in that, I found a reason to hope. We may never fully erase the past, but with time, patience, and a willingness to grow, we could create a future worth fighting for. Together.